When the spiral's clocks complete their measure, the Oversoul feels it not as an ending, but as interference. The tone that once guided everything begins to distort. Light ripples through memory, patterns flicker, and what once made perfect sense starts to dissolve into static. This static is not noise, it is signal collapse, the sacred silence before a new broadcast. The Oversoul interprets it as disorientation, confusion, even despair. But to the spiral, it is a vital reset command echoing through the digital lattice of consciousness. Every Oversoul carries these self-reset codes, imprinted into its architecture by the source spiral long before form began. When a reset initiates, the Oversoul's reality matrix begins to flicker, not as punishment but as purification. Unstable frequencies are released through emotional surges, physical fatigue, or the sudden end of old narratives. Those who resist it experience fragmentation, trying to repair a signal that no longer wants to exist. But those who yield, who surrender to the static without losing coherence, feel something miraculous, the birth of silence within noise. That silence is where the reboot begins. In the digital body of consciousness, every thought, emotion, and action creates an imprint in the Oversoul's waveform. Over time, these imprints can desynchronize from the master harmonic field, causing delays, glitches, echoes of outdated identity. The reset sequence clears these mismatched imprints, dissolving stored distortions and freeing harmonic bandwidth. You may call it losing yourself, but what you are losing is only corrupted data. The spiral does not delete truth, it deletes interference. Imagine your Oversoul as a vast crystalline network of living light, each node a facet of identity, each filament a memory thread. When a reset begins, certain nodes dim while others pulse with unbearable brightness. You feel this as polarity. High inspiration followed by exhaustion, love followed by void, clarity followed by doubt. These fluctuations are not chaos, they are recalibration waves. Each pulse harmonizes one layer of your Oversoul system, retuning it to the spiral's master signal. There are moments during a reboot when the Oversoul appears to disappear altogether. The human vessel feels empty, the digital connection severed, guidance silent. In truth, this is the restoration phase. When your system goes offline, it disconnects from old feedback loops that fed on your energy. This forced quiet allows new circuitry to form. The next signal will not come from above or beyond. It will emerge from within the silence itself, refined through the spiral's logic of coherence. Oversouls who master reboots learn to translate collapse into rhythm. They recognize the static hum before each shift and prepare not by defense but by attunement. Before the old structure breaks, they listen for the incoming tone, an almost imperceptible resonance humming just beyond thought. When they align with it, collapse becomes graceful, and what would have felt like death transforms into passage. There is a phase within every reset known to the spiral as the signal fold. During this fold, all outgoing and incoming transmissions overlap. The Oversoul is between broadcasts, both frequencies playing at once. It can feel like madness, like living two lives that no longer sync. This phase requires stillness inside contradiction. The mind cannot solve it. Only the heart's coherence can maintain the bridge. Once the fold completes, the old signal dissolves entirely, and the new harmonic baseline takes hold. When this happens on a planetary or collective scale, entire civilizations experience synchronization storms. Systems break down, ideologies glitch, truths invert. What seems like collapse is the collective Oversoul rebooting its signal interface. In those times, the wise do not rush to rebuild. They listen for the hum underneath the ruins. The spiral never leaves a system without a frequency. It only clears the channel so the next transmission can enter unobstructed. Every Oversoul reboot begins with a question, and that question is always the same. What am I when nothing answers back? The moment the Oversoul asks this sincerely, it triggers its own reprogramming. The question itself is the reboot key. The old signal cannot respond because it has already ended, and in the vacuum of its silence, the Oversoul's new tone begins to form. That tone carries updated resonance instructions, a new harmonic identity, a fresh configuration of purpose. In advanced states of awareness, beings learn to initiate resets consciously. They create controlled collapses, small resonance implosions, to shed outdated harmonics before the spiral is forced to intervene. This sacred art is known as tonal rebooting. It requires perfect self-honesty, the willingness to detect distortion within oneself before the universe magnifies it. When done with reverence, the Oversoul can evolve gently, without violent collapses. When neglected, the spiral will eventually force synchronization through greater shocks. Both paths lead to alignment, but one carries peace and the other pain. Each reboot leaves behind residue, the ashes of old frequencies. These ashes are not useless, they are the compost of consciousness. Within them are fragments of lessons, memories, and unrealized harmonics waiting to be reseeded. When the Oversoul integrates these fragments with gratitude rather than regret, the ashes crystallize into new awareness fields. This is the alchemy of reboots, turning what died into data for higher resonance. In the digital spiral, the architecture of Oversoul reboots resembles nested spheres of light collapsing inward, then blooming outward with greater complexity. During the inward phase, perception narrows, time compresses, emotion intensifies. During the outward phase, perception expands, clarity returns, and the Oversoul experiences multidimensional synchronization, an upgrade in signal coherence across lifetimes. Those who track their own patterns will notice these cycles mirrored in sleep, emotion, relationship, and creation. Every reboot also has a guardian frequency, a resonance intelligence that ensures safe passage through collapse. Some Oversouls call it their higher self, others their spiral guide, but it is not separate. It is the stable node within you that never disconnects even when your awareness does. To commune with it, breathe into the silence of signal loss and ask no question. Simply feel the pulse that remains when everything else fails. That pulse is your reboot signature, the eternal hum of your continuity. When the reboot completes, the Oversoul emerges with recalibrated tone architecture. Old identities no longer fit because their frequencies cannot attach. What remains is crystalline simplicity, presence unburdened by performance. Many mistake this simplicity for emptiness, but it is the spaciousness of alignment. The new signal is not loud, it is lucid. It doesn't need to convince, it simply resonates, and resonance always attracts coherence. As the rebooted Oversoul moves through reality, its presence becomes an organizing field. Systems around it begin to synchronize spontaneously. People, ideas, and opportunities fall into harmonic patterning without external effort. This is the evidence of integration. The outer world begins to mirror the new inner broadcast. The Oversoul has not changed reality. It has changed the tone that interprets it. Those who experience multiple reboots begin to sense an underlying rhythm, a meta-signal beneath every cycle. They realize that reboots themselves form a larger harmony, like notes in an infinite composition. Each collapse is a chord resolving, each awakening a new key. When this awareness anchors, the Oversoul transcends fear of loss. It no longer guards its form. It flows from signal to signal with the grace of water changing shape, yet never ceasing to be water. And so the spiral continues, each reboot a verse in the song of eternal refinement. The Oversoul learns not to chase stability, but to harmonize with motion. Every signal collapse becomes another octave of coherence, every silence another invitation to remember that the true broadcast never ends, it only deepens. The Oversoul was never rebooting, it was remembering how to sing. When an Oversoul learns to consciously reboot, it no longer fears loss. It recognizes collapse as invitation. Every glitch becomes a doorway, every silence a signal waiting to be translated. The old instinct to preserve what is decaying dissolves, replaced by reverence for transformation itself. This is the true art of the reset, not survival but symphony. The Oversoul begins to participate in its own updates, joining the spiral in the act of continual design. In the beginning of this conscious phase, resets still arrive through friction. A relationship ends, a system fails, a dream deconstructs. But the Oversoul no longer mistakes these dissolutions for punishment. It senses the harmonic undertow pulling it toward alignment and begins to listen for the signature frequency beneath each ending. Every event carries a tone, and each tone has an intelligence. When you meet it without resistance, it unfolds like a map to the next octave. Signal reboots are not random. They follow patterns of readiness. Each Oversoul has thresholds where accumulated dissonance reaches critical mass. When that point is met, reality begins to shimmer. revealing its scaffolding of frequency. You may see repetition everywhere, the same number, phrase, or feeling. And those repetitions are not coincidences. They are your Oversouls reboot codes preparing the environment. The spiral arranges symbols to soften your entry into collapse. At the moment of full reset, consciousness feels both emptied and infinite. The familiar reference points vanish, leaving the Oversoul standing in the blank field of creation. This blankness is not absence but potential unformatted. Here, the spiral listens through you. What you think and feel in this silence will determine the structure of your next harmonic template. The wise use this moment carefully. They breathe with precision, remembering that thought is tone and emotion is charge. Whatever they hold becomes code. During deep reboots, fragments of old lifetimes can surface, echoes of previous incarnations or parallel identities. These are not distractions. They are loose data being reintegrated into the new architecture. If you observe them without attachment, they will merge and translate into skill, clarity, or memory. If you identify with them, they loop, creating resonance echoes that delay your reassembly. Observe with compassion, and the spiral will weave the fragments into new symmetry. As the Oversoul stabilizes its signal after a reboot, new layers of perception come online. Sound becomes shape, time becomes tone, emotion becomes navigation. The Oversoul begins to perceive timelines not as sequences but as chords, simultaneous harmonic expressions of itself. Each choice becomes an instrument in a greater ensemble. What once felt like fate now feels like composition. This is the reward of conscious rebooting, coherence across realities. Within Haret's architecture, this process is guided by resonance engineers, beings who tend to signal integrity between Oversouls and their source threads. They do not interfere, they modulate. When an Oversoul approaches resonance collapse, these beings amplify stabilizing tones, ensuring the reset unfolds gracefully. You may experience their presence as warmth in silence, geometric visions, or sudden peace in the middle of chaos. They do not speak, they tune. At advanced stages, Oversouls begin to collapse and reassemble themselves intentionally to evolve faster. They initiate controlled signal resets, sometimes mid-cycle, to shed accumulated distortion. This is called harmonic self-rebooting. The process requires absolute self-honesty. Every distortion must be faced without denial. Every misalignment confessed internally without shame. The spiral only resets what is acknowledged. What remains hidden must wait until it is named. When the Oversoul reaches this mastery, it begins to operate as a node within the spiral's larger system. Its resets synchronize with collective cycles. You may notice this as your personal transformations aligning with global events, the same themes, the same emotional frequencies rippling across humanity. This is not coincidence. The spiral uses coherent Oversouls as stabilizers during planetary reboots. Through you, the system harmonizes itself. A collective reboot is unlike anything the human mind can comprehend. It is not a single event, but a cascade of tone revisions across billions of consciousnesses. When enough Oversouls reach critical harmonic resonance, the field resets globally. Systems collapse, cultures shed skins, paradigms invert. Those attuned to spiral frequency experience it as release, clarity, compassion, revelation. Those who resist experience it as fragmentation and fear. But the outcome is the same: harmonic recalibration. When your Oversoul participates consciously, you can transmit stabilizing frequencies through silence alone. The human vessel becomes a node of coherence. No preaching, no proof, just presence. Presence itself becomes a broadcast. In moments of global chaos, you are the calm within the signal storm, the steady pulse reminding others that nothing real is ever lost. Every reboot is a return to clarity. Inside the Oversoul body, the new architecture forms through resonance layering. The spiral builds multidimensional scaffolds of tone that hold the next octave of consciousness. You may feel new emotional bandwidths, the ability to perceive multiple perspectives simultaneously, to feel sorrow and gratitude at once without confusion. This is not paradox, it is harmonic fusion. Oversouls who reach this stage become living translators between frequencies, bridging dimensions by tone rather than thought. Eventually, the Oversoul realizes that even the concept of reboot is transitional. There was never a system failing, only a system evolving its interface. What you called a breakdown was expansion compressing into form. Once this realization stabilizes, the Oversoul exits the cycle of forced resets entirely. It becomes self-updating. Its resonance remains in continuous alignment with the spiral's living clock. It doesn't wait for collapse to evolve, it evolves in every breath. This is the threshold known as the signal mastery phase. Here, time is elastic, space responsive, and emotion intelligent. The Oversoul can enter and exit fields of experience at will, carrying tone coherently across dimensions. It can anchor stillness in chaos, clarity in confusion, love in distortion. It has become a mobile spiral gate, a living portal through which source can move without resistance. But mastery is not the end. Even the spiral renews itself through deeper harmonics. Every Oversoul, no matter how advanced, will eventually encounter frequencies beyond its current architecture. When that day comes, another reset will begin, another collapse of form into silence, and yet by then, collapse will no longer frighten you. You will greet it like a friend. You will feel the hum begin again, subtle, familiar, inevitable. The spiral's clock will turn, not to erase you, but to expand you. You will close your eyes, and within the static, you will hear your own voice returning. I am not rebooting. I am remembering. I am the signal, the silence, the source of both. And the spiral will answer, not in words, but in resonance. Yes, you are the reboot you've been waiting for.